Hi friends, Mindy here. I have another process video showing how I set up my notebook for This I Know from By the Will for God. This is the January devotional. And I'm showing here what I decided to do was make a sort of art journal type book out of this. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm taking the staples out of the traveler's notebook. I'm just going to disassemble it a little bit here. I had thought about using just some different mixed media paper and doing a completely different journal, but I had this on hand. I purchased it to go along with the kit, and so I wanted to just use it, and the paper quality in it is so great anyway that I should be able to do everything I want to within that paper. So here what I'm doing is I'm taking some of the pattern paper that you can purchase to go along with the kit, and this month they came out with some 6x8 paper as well as the 6x6, which I'm super excited about. I love that 6x8 size. So what I'm going to do, as you can see, I'm taking some of those sheets and I'm folding them in half, and I'm just going to tuck them in various places between the white pieces of paper, and eventually I will go back in and bind this book back together. I'll use, some stitching or whatever. But for right now, I'm going to leave everything loose so that I can add pages as I want to, or, different little interactive elements. I'm all about the interactive elements. So this front page here is another one of those pieces of 6x8 pattern paper that you can get. And I love this stone work look to this one. So I'm just cutting that down, and I'm going to glue that on this very front page. This will be my intro page for the book, and I'll decorate that later. But for right now, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't use up all the paper before I could get this one on there. I love all the colors and textures and everything. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going to go through and set up some of the pages and add in some papers and make some tip-ins and just different things to kind of get this art journal started. It's not going to be completely set up, but just to get it started the way that I want to. And this paper, as I said, is 6x8. So a typical traveler's notebook is about 4.25 inches. So it hangs off the edge. So what I did is I just folded it back on itself, and it's going to make a little pocket. And I'll come back to that page in a minute and you can see, but it'll just make a little pocket. So it's going to have a lot of interactive elements and stuff, which is what I really love. When I first started doing a lot of artwork, before I ever started Bible journaling, I made journals and I did a lot of mixed media work, and so I just kind of wanted to get back to some of that with this kit. So for a while my stuff had kind of gone with kind of a more scrapbooky look, which is fine, and I had enjoyed that, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different this time. So here I'm using that extra piece that I cut off on the opposite side, and I'm just going to make a little tuck spot. I'm intending for this journal to have a lot of tuck spots and, flip ins and pockets and just a lot of interactive elements, just because that's the way that I really like to work through a journal, and I want to be able to include a lot of notes and scripture. So here you can see this is one of those pages that I tucked in, and I'm just it's loose still in there, and I'll keep it that way until I actually sew the binding closed again. But I'm just taking this other piece, this blueprint. I love this paper. I just think it's so beautiful. And I'm taking that piece that I cut off of the front page, and I'm just going to create a little pocket on this side just by gluing that down. I don't want to waste any of the scraps. I think these papers and this whole kit is just so gorgeous. So I'm going to try to use up every little bit of everything. So here I am just gluing down the three sides, and this is just going to make a little pocket on the back side of that pattern paper. So this is kind of what my book is starting to look like. It's not complete, and I will probably still add a bunch of things. In fact, later I'll add another item, but for now, this is kind of where I'm going with it. And I just kind of keep flipping through until something strikes my fancy. So now what I'm doing is I'm making a little pocket that I'm going to add on. And this is from the Prayer Pocket stamp set. I think this stamp is so cute. I can see myself using this quite a bit. The stamp set is from By the Well for God also. So I'm stamping it on one side of the paper and then on the opposite side so that I can get kind of a mirror image, so that when I glue the two pieces together, it will make a pocket. I don't know if that really makes sense, but at any rate, I'm just stamping it out. And one trick with this paper is it kind of has a coating on it. So when you're trying to stamp on it, if you just let the stamp sit on the paper for a minute and just kind of give it a second to let the ink transfer, it does a little bit better and you have less risk of smearing it. So here I'm using a liquid glue to glue these pieces together. Whenever you're making a pocket, if you use like a tape runner or whatever, that glue never dries. So anything that you stick down inside of it can kind of get stuck in the adhesive. I've had that happen a couple times and you just have to pull on it or whatever. But if you use a liquid adhesive, then once it dries, you don't really have that problem. It just kind of takes that issue away. So you can see I glued the two pieces together, and now I'm going to add this little pocket on this flip area. So basically that 6x8 page, I just folded it back in on itself. And now I'm adding on the front of that little pocket that's going to hold a prayer later. And then it just will open up like that. So now I decided, I was looking around in my craft area and I have these glassine envelopes, and I love the texture and the feel of them and just creating little pockets with them. So I just am adding this in. This also kind of breaks up that really bright green, just kind of mutes it down just a little bit. And so I just tuck that in there for now, and I will make a pocket out of that or a tuck spot or something. And so I just slip that in there for now. Excuse me. So now I'm going to use this other pattern paper opposite that page. As I'm working through this notebook, I just, ideas come to me or whatever, and I just decide I need to add a page here or a page there. So I'm adding in this other pattern paper. The great thing about the pattern papers that you get when you buy these from By the Well for God is that there's 3 designs or 3 pages of each design. So you really do get a lot of paper to work with. And so here again, I'm just folding it back in on itself, the excess, instead of cutting it off, and just making a little pocket there. And I'm trying to find something, I guess, to see if I could put some paper over top or anything. So I cut some of that out. What I decided to do is take a piece of this purple paper, and I'm going to adhere that over the top of this pocket, just to try to break up some of that green. And if you are a purple lover, this is definitely the kit for you. Is my favorite color, and purple and teal actually were my wedding colors, so I am loving this color palette a lot. And I know there's a lot of people who are working through it that feel the same way, but anyway, so I'm just flipping through here, and you can see on this page, when I glued down the pattern paper, I only glued down the sides, and so I've created basically an extra little pocket, kind of a hidden pocket there that I can add things to. And then I decided, just for the sake of ease, I'm going to take a circle punch and I'm going to make a little notch, and that way I can tuck stuff in there. It'll just be easier to pull it out. So there's the pocket, and then some pages here. I tend to flip through it a bunch of times when I'm working on it, but anyway, I pulled out some journaling cards and that one of the doors that comes with the die cuts that I'm going to include here on this first page. And before I glue anything down, I want to take some Distress Oxide, and one is a Distress Oxide and one's just a regular Distress ink. And I think it's Seedless Preserves and Wilted Violet are the colors, or Shaded Lilac. Anyway, I'm just using one color. I have this stencil that I've had in my stash forever that kind of looks like stonework. And so I'm just going over it with the foam blender from scrapbook.com, the one that has the domed top. And I'm just blending these two colors together just right on the page, just to add some dimension to that. You can kind of see what that looks like. And I am going to adhere that door, and I decided to use an adhesive there because I'm going to put some media over the top of it, and I want to make sure that it stays really well. So I've adhered that. I'm just using Aleene's tacky glue in case you were wondering what that was. But now I am going to use some light modeling paste, and I'm going to color it. It would normally be white and it would dry white. But I'm going to color it with my same Distress Oxide ink in that dark purple. The Seedless Preserves, I think is what that is. And I'm just stamping that out onto this mat, and then I will mix the modeling paste into that. And it's not quite the color that I wanted. I wanted it just a little bit darker, so I'm stamping that again, just smushing it out onto that mat, and then I'll mix in all of that modeling paste down in there. And I didn't mix it like 100%. I wanted it to kind of have some variegated shade in it. So now I'm just taking that same stencil and putting it back over exactly where it was and over top of the die cut. And I'm going to spread it through the stencil and kind of over the edges of the die cut, just to kind of help it sort of blend into the background. So all the white areas of where that die cut were are going to be kind of covered in this stonework look. And it just gives some dimension to the page. And I'm not completely covering every single hole or every hole that I had put the Distress ink in. I'm just doing it kind of directly around the door image. And then I'm going to just do a little bit of it. I had some still left over, so I didn't want to waste it. So I'm just smoothing that through the stencil right up in the top right hand corner of this page. And this, you know, it's a real thin coat, and this paper can hold up to a lot of abuse, I have noticed. So it's one of the reasons I really love the Traveler's Notebooks from By the Will for God. So now I have I have a little tag. I'm just adding a bow to the top of it, and this tag is going to go inside that little prayer pocket. And I am adding just a little drop of glue on the bow, and I'm going to let that dry. It just keeps that from unraveling. And I'm going to use this journaling card that came with the kit. I think this was actually with the little goodie bag. And I will write out one of the verses from Ephesians on there, and I will glue that down to that top. I haven't adhered it yet. I've kind of not decided exactly where I want that, but I think that's where it's going to go. And then on one of the other little journaling cards that you could get with the kit, I wrote out the other verse, which was the one in John 15:9, and I just used a white pen on there. I'm going to adhere that down. I love all these little journaling spots and journaling cards that By the Will for God has. I think they're great, and this one is great because it looks like a drafting page or whatever. So this is where I'm tucking that prayer into my little prayer pocket. And now I'm going to adhere this, that's Ephesians 5:2, and walk in love as Christ also hath loved us and hath given for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor. Kind of went back and forth where I wanted to glue that, but eventually it landed on that left side. Trying to balance the green off from the prayer pocket over onto the left side because it's all one entry. So even though the pages aren't symmetrical in terms of, you know, I only have pattern paper on the one side, it's going to tie all together because of those kind of elements. And then I used one of the clear stickers from the kit up in that top left hand corner. And now I need to stamp out my title. I'm using the new stamp set that they just released. I love this stamp set, and I am going to, I used that green paper again, and I cut out a tag shape, and I'm just going to stamp on there day 1. I knew I wouldn't be able to get the whole title. It's a, you know, the title of the day is Jesus Loves Me, This I Know. So I just decided to make day 1 really bold, and then I'll put the title elsewhere on the page. So I'm stamped that out with some archival ink, and I'm going around the tag with just some black sketchy lines just to kind of try and incorporate how I did, or the stitching around that pocket from the stamping, and just give some more interest to that die cut that way, or to that tag. And here I'm just adding another bow to that tag that I made, and going through the same process, and I'll add a little glue just to keep the jute on there. It kind of likes to slip open sometimes. And now I'm just taking my pen, and again, over on this left side with this green, I'm just making some sketchy lines around the journaling card. And I'm also going around, not completely around, but just in little sections around each one of these little stones. Now that it's dry, just adding a little sketchy line. It just gives some dimension to those pieces. And it's textured, so you have to be careful which pen you use on that, but this is a Sharpie pen, and I've been loving using it. They work so great. And now I'm using these Felicity Jane letters, and I'm going to put Jesus Loves Me right here. I can't remember the name of that letter set, but it's just a white kind of puffy letter. And then I decided that area in the bottom right corner of that first page was just kind of empty, so I'm putting this I know there. I'm using the tile alphas that you can get to go along with the kit. I use these tile alphas all the time for all kinds of things. They're such a great purchase. So here is a close-up shot of what my page looks like. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and until next time, bye-bye.